I've been a tour manager in the music industry for 28 years, and I've seen it all. Artists having breakdowns hours before showtime, record labels threatening lawsuits over canceled dates, promoters losing millions because a performer didn't show up. But what Whitney Houston did in June 1999 was something I'd never seen before and never saw again. She walked away from everything at the absolute peak of her career because of 7 words from a 6-year-old child. My name is Robert Matthews, and I was Whitney Houston's tour coordinator for what should have been her biggest tour ever, the My Love Is Your Love World Tour. 47 cities across 5 continents, sold-out venues, estimated gross revenue of over $80 million. We'd been planning it for 18 months. Every detail was perfect. Every ticket was sold. And 3 days before opening night, Whitney canceled the entire thing. Let me take you back to where it started, because you need to understand what was at stake to appreciate what she gave up. January 1999, Whitney had just released My Love Is Your Love, and it was a massive comeback. After a few years of tabloid speculation about her personal life, she'd proven she was still the voice, still the star, still the Whitney Houston who could fill any venue in the world. The album went multi-platinum. The singles dominated the charts, and most importantly for the business side, Whitney was ready to tour again. Really tour, not just a handful of dates, but a proper world tour that would cement her position as one of the greatest performers of all time. I remember our first planning meeting in February. Whitney sat in that conference room surrounded by executives, promoters, lawyers, and accountants. Everyone was talking numbers, logistics, merchandise deals, sponsorship opportunities. Millions and millions of dollars flowing around that table, and Whitney just sat there quietly, nodding, signing where they told her to sign. But I noticed something in her eyes that bothered me. She looked tired, not physically tired. Whitney always had incredible stamina. She looked soul-tired, like someone going through the motions because everyone expected her to. After the meeting, I caught her alone in the hallway. "You okay with all this?" I asked. She smiled that famous Whitney smile. "Bobby's 6 now, old enough to understand that mommy has to work, old enough not to need me every second, right?" The way she said it, like she was trying to convince herself, not me, should have been my first warning sign. Over the next 4 months, we built that tour from the ground up. Stage design, lighting rigs, sound systems, costume changes, choreography, backup dancers, the full band. We assembled a crew of over 200 people. We booked venues from New York to Tokyo, from London to Sydney. I watched Whitney rehearse every day. She was professional, talented, hitting every note perfectly, but something was missing. That spark, that joy she used to have on stage, I couldn't quite see it. She was performing, yes, but not like someone who loved what she was doing, more like someone fulfilling an obligation. Her daughter Bobbi Kristina would sometimes come to rehearsals. She was 6 years old, beautiful, full of energy. She'd sit in the empty venue watching her mother practice, clapping when Whitney hit the high notes, asking when she could come up on stage too. Whitney's face would change when Bobbi came in. The soul-tired expression would disappear, replaced by genuine light. She'd sing different then, not technically better but with more heart, like she remembered why music mattered. But those moments were rare. Most of the time, Bobbi was with nannies, tutors, family members, because Whitney was working. 18-hour days of rehearsals, meetings, photo shoots, interviews, fitness training, vocal coaching. The machine of a world tour requires complete dedication. June 15th, 1999. 3 days before opening night in Chicago. Everything was ready. The stage was being set up in the venue. The crew was doing final tech checks. The first show was completely sold out, 20,000 people ready to see Whitney Houston live. I got a call at 7 a.m. from Whitney's personal assistant. "Robert, can you come to Whitney's house? She needs to talk to you." I drove over immediately, assuming she wanted to discuss some last-minute change to the set list, or maybe was nervous about opening night. That was normal. Even the biggest stars get nervous. When I arrived, Whitney was sitting in her kitchen, still in her pajamas, holding a cup of coffee. Her eyes were red like she'd been crying. Bobbi Kristina was finishing breakfast at the table, completely unaware that anything was wrong. "Thanks for coming," Whitney said quietly. "Can we talk outside?" We went out to her backyard, away from where Bobbi could hear us. Whitney stood by the window, looking back at her daughter through the glass.
"I need to cancel the tour," she said.
I laughed, not because it was funny, but because my brain couldn't process what she just said. What? Whitney, we open in 3 days. You can't cancel now. The crew is already in Chicago setting up. 20,000 people have tickets. The contracts. I know, she interrupted. I know all of that, but I need to cancel everything. Why? Are you sick? Is something wrong? Whitney was quiet for a long moment, still watching Bobbi through the window. Then she told me what had happened that morning. They'd been having breakfast together, just the two of them, which was rare with Whitney's schedule. Bobbi was talking about school, her friends, things 6-year-olds talk about. Then she'd asked what Whitney was doing that weekend. "I'm starting the tour, baby," Whitney had said. "Remember, Mommy's going to be traveling and singing for people all over the world." "How long?" Bobbi had asked. "About 6 months, but I'll call you every night, and you can come visit me in some of the cities." Bobbi had been quiet for a moment, pushing her cereal around in her bowl. Then she'd looked up at her mother and asked 7 words, "Mommy, will you be at my birthday party?" Whitney told me she'd frozen. Bobbi's birthday was in March, 8 months away, and according to the tour schedule we'd built, Whitney would be in Japan on that exact date. We'd already sold the tickets. I told her I'd try, Whitney said, tears streaming down her face now. I told her I'd do my best to be there, and you know what she said? I shook my head. She said, "That's what you said last year, and you missed it because of recording, and you missed my ballet recital because of the music video, and you missed parent day at school because of an interview." And then she asked me, "If you're always trying your best to be there, but you're never there, does that mean other things are more important than me?" Whitney broke down completely then, sobbing in her backyard while her 6-year-old daughter ate breakfast inside, having no idea the profound impact her question had just made. "She's 6 years old," Whitney said when she could speak again. 6 years old, and she's already learned that her mother chooses fame over her. What kind of person does that make me? What kind of mother? Whitney, you're an incredible mother. Every parent has to work. Every kid has to understand that. Do they? She interrupted. Do they really? Or is that just what we tell ourselves to feel better about missing their childhoods? Bobbi asked me one question this morning, and I realized something terrifying. I can remember every venue I've performed in over the past 3 years. I can tell you the exact dates, the set lists, the reviews, but I can't remember the last time I put my daughter to bed and stayed there until she fell asleep. I can't remember the last time we spent a whole day together, with no schedule, no appointments, nothing but being together. This tour represents 2 years of work, I said, trying to find any argument that might work. Hundreds of people are depending on these jobs. The contracts alone. I know, I'll pay whatever penalties I have to pay. I'll face whatever lawsuits come, but I can't get on that plane to Chicago. I can't leave my daughter for 6 months to sing for strangers who'll forget me the moment a newer star comes along. Bobbi won't forget, though. She'll remember that I chose them over her. What could I say? I'd worked with Whitney long enough to know when her mind was made up, and standing there in her backyard, watching her watch her daughter through the window, I understood something I'd never understood before. Fame is a drug. Success is addictive, and the music industry is built on convincing artists that the show must go on, no matter what personal cost. We'd all told Whitney she could have it all. The career, the family, the fame, the normal life. But we were lying. Or maybe we believed the lie too. "What do you want me to do?" I finally asked. "Call everyone. Cancel everything. I'll make a statement, but I won't do interviews. I won't explain myself beyond saying that I need to spend time with my family. Let them be angry. Let them sue. But help me get out of this." The next 72 hours were absolute chaos. I had to notify the venue in Chicago that the show was canceled, then every other venue on the tour. 47 canceled shows, tens of millions of dollars in lost revenue. The record label was furious. They'd been counting on tour revenue to offset the marketing budget for the album. They threatened to sue Whitney for breach of contract. The promoters were beside themselves. Some of them had invested huge sums in advance ticket sales, marketing, venue deposits. Lawsuits were filed within days. The media had a field day. Headlines ranged from "Whitney Houston cancels world tour, health crisis," Tadova demands too much, walks away from $80 million. Speculation ran wild. Some said she was back on drugs, others claimed she was having a nervous breakdown. A few suspected relationship problems. But Whitney didn't explain. She released one simple statement through her publicist. "I've made the difficult decision to cancel my upcoming tour to spend time with my family. This was not an easy choice, but it's the right one for me and my daughter. I appreciate my fans' understanding and hope to return to touring when the time is right." The backlash was intense. Fans who'd bought tickets were angry. Industry professionals who'd been depending on tour jobs were suddenly unemployed. Other artists criticized her publicly for being unprofessional and setting a bad example. But Whitney stayed quiet through all of it. She paid the penalties, she settled the lawsuits, and she stayed home with Bobbi Kristina. I didn't work with Whitney again after that. She didn't tour for several years, and when she eventually did, she used different management. I'd been too connected to that canceled tour, too much a reminder of what she'd walked away from. But I stayed in touch with people close to her, and I heard stories about what those next few years were like. Whitney took Bobbi to school every morning. She attended every parent-teacher conference, every school play, every birthday party. She was just mom, not Whitney Houston the superstar, but mom. People who saw them together said Whitney looked happier than she had in years. There was peace in her face that hadn't been there during all those rehearsals. She'd made her choice, and despite the professional cost, it seemed like the right one. But here's the part of the story that haunts me, the part I can barely stand to tell. Those 7 words that made Whitney cancel everything, "Mommy, will you be at my birthday party?" They saved Whitney's relationship with her daughter in that moment. They gave them a few precious years together where Whitney was present, engaged, prioritizing Bobbi over her career. But it wasn't enough. It couldn't be enough, because the damage had already been done in those early years, and the demons that Whitney was fighting, the pressure, the addiction, the toxic relationships, they didn't disappear just because she canceled a tour. Whitney Houston died in February 2012. Bobbi Kristina was 18 years old. She found her mother's body in a hotel bathtub. And here's what breaks my heart every single time I think about this story. 3 years after losing her mother, Bobbi Kristina was found unconscious in a bathtub in her own home. She never regained consciousness. She died in July 2015 at age 22. Those 7 words, "Mommy, will you be at my birthday party?" They represented a 6-year-old trying to ask for what every child needs, a parent who's present. And Whitney heard that question and made the bravest choice of her career. She walked away from $80 million in professional suicide to be present for her daughter. But it came too late to undo the pattern that had already been established. Too late to heal wounds that had formed in those early years when work always came first. Too late to break the cycle of addiction and pain that would eventually claim both of them. I'm not telling you this story to say that Whitney made the wrong choice in 1999. She didn't. Canceling that tour was the right decision. It was brave and selfless, and exactly what Bobbi needed in that moment. I'm telling you this story to say that one right choice can't undo years of wrong priorities. One moment of clarity can't heal years of absence. And sometimes, by the time we figure out what really matters, we've already lost too much time to make it right. The music industry never forgave Whitney for that canceled tour. Her career never fully recovered from the professional damage. The lawsuits cost her millions. The reputation hit followed her for years. But I don't think Whitney ever regretted it. In the years before her death, when she did occasional interviews, she'd sometimes mention that time in her life. She never explicitly talked about canceling the tour, but she'd reference making hard choices and learning what really matters. In one interview I saw, about a year before she died, someone asked her what advice she'd give her younger self. She thought for a long moment, and then she said, "I'd tell her to trust her heart more than the people telling her what she should do. I'd tell her that you can't get back time, and I'd tell her that fame is temporary, but the people you love, they're supposed to be forever, supposed to be." The way she said those last 2 words, "supposed to be," like she knew that even love doesn't guarantee forever, that even making the right choice doesn't guarantee a happy ending. After Bobbi Kristina died, I found myself thinking about that morning in Whitney's kitchen a lot, about how a 6-year-old child asked one simple question that revealed a profound truth. When you're always trying your best to be there but you're never there, it means other things are more important. And I think about all the other artists I've worked with over the years, all the tours I've coordinated, the shows I've managed, the careers I've helped build, and I wonder how many of them have 6-year-olds at home asking similar questions. How many of them are choosing the stage over the breakfast table? How many of them will look back one day and realize they got the priorities wrong? The music industry is built on a lie, that you can have it all, that you can be a present parent and a global superstar, that you can build intimate relationships while living on the road, that your kids will understand because you're doing important work. But kids don't understand. They just know that mommy or daddy isn't there. Again, Whitney Houston understood that finally when Bobbi asked her that question, and she made the choice that mattered. Even though it cost her everything professionally, she chose her daughter. She chose to be present. But the tragedy is that one choice, one canceled tour, one decision to prioritize family, it couldn't undo the years of damage. It couldn't heal Bobbi's wounds. It couldn't break the cycles they were both caught in. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if Whitney had heard that question 5 years earlier, or if she'd structured her entire career differently from the beginning. Would it have changed anything? Would both of them still be alive? I don't know. I'll never know. What I do know is this. Every artist I work with now, I tell them this story. Not all of it. Some parts are too painful, too private, but I tell them about the morning a 6-year-old asked her superstar mother if she'd be at her birthday party, and how that question changed everything. And I tell them that fame is temporary. Tours can be rescheduled. Albums can wait. But your kids' childhoods, those are happening right now, whether you're there or not. And they'll either remember you being present or they'll remember your absence. There's no in between. Whitney Houston gave up $80 million in professional respect to be at her daughter's birthday party. In the eyes of the music industry, she made the wrong choice. She was unprofessional. She let people down. But Whitney knew something the industry doesn't want to admit. There will always be another tour, another album, another chance at fame. But there's only one childhood, only one chance to be the parent your child needs you to be in that moment. She heard the question her daughter was really asking, "Am I important to you?" And she answered it with actions instead of words. She chose her daughter over her career, love over fame, presence over performance. The tragedy isn't that she made that choice. The tragedy is that she had to make it at all, that the industry had structured her life in such a way that being a present mother and being a successful artist were treated as mutually exclusive, that by the time she realized what mattered most, so much damage had already been done. I think about Bobbi Kristina's question a lot. "Mommy, will you be at my birthday party?" 7 words that should have been easy to answer with a simple yes. 7 words that instead revealed a fundamental truth about priorities, choices, and what we sacrifice in pursuit of success. Whitney chose correctly in that moment. But the real lesson of this story isn't about that one choice. It's about all the choices that led up to that moment. All the times she chose the stage over the breakfast table, the interview over the ballet recital, the recording session over the parent-teacher conference. One right choice couldn't undo years of wrong priorities. And by the time Whitney tried to make things right, some patterns were already too deeply set. Some wounds were already too deep to heal with presence alone. Both of them are gone now. Whitney and Bobbi Kristina, mother and daughter, both lost to the same demons, the same pain, the same cycles they couldn't break. And I'm left with the memory of that morning in June 1999, when a 6-year-old asked a simple question, and a superstar made the hardest choice of her life. The question every parent in this industry, in any demanding career, needs to ask themselves is, what would your child ask you if they felt safe enough to tell you the truth? And more importantly, when they ask it, will you be brave enough to hear what they're really saying? Because sometimes love means canceling everything. Sometimes it means walking away from millions of dollars and professional respect. Sometimes it means hearing your child's question and having the courage to answer honestly, even when that answer costs you everything you've worked for. Whitney Houston heard her daughter's question, and she answered it. Not perfectly, not early enough to undo all the damage, but she answered it. "Mommy, will you be at my birthday party?" "Yes, baby, I will." And for those few years, she was present. She was there. She chose love over fame. It wasn't enough to save either of them in the end, but it was something. It was a mother, hearing her child's pain and responding with sacrifice instead of excuses. That's the story that the industry doesn't want you to hear. That sometimes the bravest thing a star can do is walk away. That sometimes success means nothing if you've lost what matters most in pursuit of it. 7 words from a 6-year-old child. 7 words that cost Whitney Houston $80 million and her professional reputation. Mommy, will you be at my birthday party? The question that changed everything. The question that revealed everything. The question that 15 years later would remind all of us that some things matter more than applause, more than album sales, more than being Whitney Houston the superstar. Being mommy, being present, being there, that was worth everything. Even if it came too late to change the ending.